Good evening. Another edition of the Dugout. I so wanted to talk about Virat Kohli
And?
you're singing a song or something.
No, I'm just excited that we finally just begun.
So I wanted to talk about Virat Kohli, Mohammad Shami, all of that. But then I was outvoted by my two colleagues in Siddharth and Harshit, who said no. We have to talk about Pakistan and India and Champions Trophy. The reason I didn't want to talk about it because every day something new will keep coming up, some new theory will come up.
It is like a snowball effect. It keeps on rolling.
So then I didn't want to. So since we're talking about what is theories and latest, who wants to tell us what is the latest?
Okay, so
So you are telling us.
Anybody can chip
I'm
in, but
asking who wants to tell.
I'll go.
It's a
in this
democratic
case.
room, anyone can begin.
Yes, it's important you use that word,
Yeah.
isn't it? Because now the ICC, if you look at it, they are in a conundrum because of the BCCI PCB stalemate that is currently going on. PCB have given the letter to the ICC that we don't know what is the exact contents of the letter, but we do know that they are not going to insist on a hybrid model. Okay, so the latest
That
update,
we heard from the top boss a couple of days back as well.
We know that.
we all know that. So the latest
Today there was another development, no? Where they're now seeking clarification from the ICC.
Yes, because the ICC will have to make the final decision now. Because it's an ICC event, the PCB have said and the BCCI have also said it. Now the ICC will have to take an option. What are the three things that the ICC can do? We have done videos on that. We also done
You
follow-ups.
tell who have not seen your videos. Tell them.
Okay, so the first option is take the tournament out of Pakistan. Okay, that is the one option that has been looked at by the ICC.
Okay.
Second option is, that is a very, very extreme one if you have to look at it, cancel the tournament altogether.
That's the most extreme step.
That is not happening at all. And the third one
Don't
is,
be surprised, by the way,
yeah,
if that happens.
Hold-
The one that you think is the most extreme.
and the even more outlandish bit, hold an ICC event without India.
That's the least likely.
That's the least likely. You take India out, there is no ICC event or there is no cricket. Let's make
There's
one
no
thing
ICC
very
tournament without India in it.
It can't be. So two options look very outlandish because ICC will want to save itself, the reputation and everything. When was the last time a total ICC event was cancelled? I think it's never happened in history.
No. Champions Trophy 2008 was to happen in Pakistan. I think got cancelled because of the
It was
terror.
rescheduled, but it wasn't cancelled
I
entirely.
thought, when I mean cancel, why most likely option, which you are saying outlandish,
Yeah.
can be rescheduled.
But there's
if
been
you
no-
are going to be in a scenario where there'll be a stalemate, where both sides are refusing to budge, you may have to push the tournament. What are you going to do? Either steps, either to remove India or Pakistan at this moment seem quite extreme.
Extreme.
So
See, ICC tournaments, I remember, have been co-hosted, but there's been no hybrid model per se. Has there been?
Never.
Yeah.
It's been co-hosted.
Co-host always. A hybrid model also in some way means co-host also
Not really.
in some way.
See, they'll get the
but
hosting
technically
rights.
it's not there, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That's not even important.
Because in a co-hosting, the revenue is split between the hosts.
Yeah.
Here, you get the entire revenue, but you're not playing some matches in your own country, if that is the case. So that is an even bigger loss of face, I may add, if that is the thing. Because some nations don't view your country to be very safe. So, and India being the prime
But-
one of them.
Given that so many nations have now traveled, and at times they've traveled twice in a space of 18 months as well. Australia have done that. England traveled very recently as
Every
well.
nation, barring India.
Yeah.
So that is the question. No, see, firstly, the news that you will get, and I would just want to add and tell all our viewers that you will hear many different theories, many different scenarios being presented. Depends who you listen to, which side of the border people are talking from, and those things will change. The fact of the matter is, let's be honest about it. There is nobody that can tell you with absolute degree of certainty what's going to happen. I also spoke to people and people tell me things But how much should I believe? Because are they the ones who will be taking a call? Not necessary. You speak to somebody in the BCCI, they may tell you something. Are they the ones who are going to take a call? Not at all. This is a call that will have to be taken at a very high level. It cannot be one individual or two individual. It will have to be a call taken by the ICC with a lot of stakeholders in play, and then a decision will happen. So what this will do is, the next 10, 15, 20 days, it's going to be fun and games for the media. You will keep getting a lot of information. But as I said, I'll blame the media also. They've done themselves a lot of disservice. Media from both sides, where they have presented stories based on what they have been fed from their own respective boards. And so boards have tried to push their narrative via their own reporters. Reporters treat them as source, and then they put those things out as well. And that helps in a lot of posturing and a narrative being said and what you would want amongst people. And that's a tool that has been used for a very long time. I mean, I remember I was at the World Cup, the T20 World Cup, and after the final, I clearly remember, and once everything had been done, it was a hectic game, and I was sitting down with a lot of reporters overseas and a lot of Pakistani reporters also. A lot of them I know very well, and this question actually cropped up that now, next ICC tournament, this has gotten over, you're going to come to Pakistan. At that time also I had said that I don't think the Indian team is going to travel to Pakistan. At that time, a lot of reporters from across the border, I said, no way, we've heard from the PCB and so and so, this time they are going to. I said, but you're hearing from the PCB, I'm telling you, after having spoken to people in this side of the border, the ones that were going to take a decision, was that's a decision that was there. And I'd said that it's not so much even the BCCI. BCCI and Pakistan have cooperated with each other on various occasions. They've been on the same side to help each other, right? The Asian bloc, which started way back in '83 and so on and so forth. But I'm not even getting into the history. But even till recently, you've had a bit of support from each other. I had said that what I was getting to hear from the government point of view and the noises that were being made with your sports minister saying a few things on the platform, we reported that there was no chance in that scenario that the team was going to go. So that I was 100% sure the Indian team is not going to travel, and I did convey it to them. But then that's what happens. You only want to listen to things. And I'm not saying that when I'm conveying that Indian team is not going, I'm expressing my opinion. It's not my opinion. Whether it's right or wrong, or my opinion or your opinion or his opinion, we'll discuss about that, will be something else. But right now, just stating facts that as I see and what I'm hearing from the ministry, there is no chance that they are going to be, or they are in a mood to send the Indian team, and which is what I conveyed. And that's exactly what is happening now. The BCCI went to the ministry to take permission, and they were told no, that we cannot allow the team to travel to Pakistan. So that's the bottom line, and this is where we stand right now. And the situation is that now Pakistan also, I don't blame them. They've also traveled a few times here, and they expected India to come because India had that stance that ICC tournaments will play and no bilateral and all of that. And now that India has backed out, so obviously if Pakistan, just as we are very proud of the stance that the BCCI takes, I'm sure people within Pakistan would back them, because let's assume that if you were in Pakistan and your team had come and traveled a couple of times and then the opposition wasn't coming, I'm sure that you'd be aggrieved as well. You'd be upset that, and if the board wants to take a stance, that's another thing. However, how it plays out in the ICC boardroom can be very different. That's where the commerce comes in, that's where the money comes in, that's where your clout comes in. Those are different things. But it wouldn't be wrong also at this point for a certain board or whatever to feel let down after having sent their team here. That's the scenario. So I do not think that is going to change now as I see things from the Indian side or the Pakistan side. So we are in for interesting 10-15 odd days, in which time you will get all theories. This is happening, this has said this, we will not do this, we will not do that. And it's actually quite fun to be picking up social media and different news outlets, whether you're reading it, completely different things, and that's what, it's not so much the PCB still come out, it's not so much the BCCI coming out, or PCB or the Pakistan government or the Indian government. All of it is playing out through media channels.
Exactly. I mean, we are seeing social media warriors from all sides peddle their narrative.
And the
agendas.
truth lies somewhere in between of what you are hearing from different sides.
This was bound to happen. I mean, let us make no bones about it. When June ended, when we looked at February, March 2025, Pakistan was going to host it. When they announced that cycle, I'm like, have they gone crazy, the ICC? Did they want to get themselves into the circus willingly? Because we knew this was going to happen. Even before the ball started rolling, when India said, no, we are not going to send them. When we broke the news yesterday, we realized, even before the ICC World T20, that this circus was going to pan out. Are the ICC so blind to not say that, okay, there will be complications? Why complicate matters in the very beginning? You know the equation that India and Pakistan have. Couldn't you have scheduled it much more smartly? I understand. Oh, every nation deserves.
Scheduling smartly in the sense scheduled it for a later time or a more opportune time or another
Schedule it in
venue.
a different venue. Don't even
But
take
how do
Pakistan into
you, again,
consideration.
the ICC's position, it's not easy, being ICC also where they've got to treat all full member nations and there's only 10 of them that you can count on your fingers. And you have to treat, and Pakistan are one of those top 5 nations when you talk about, doing well in ICC tournaments, whatever. You have to treat them with the same dignity as you treat as the other 3-4 big sharks out there.
This is the problem. We
all know that the hat goes around the room, simple as that as far as hosting is concerned. So, how do you deny a full member nation the right to host a tournament?
It has happened in the past. But again, everybody of the peaceniks and the liberals will say, oh, don't mix politics with sport. But then you're then defying that very purpose itself now. One full member nation, because of their regressive policies, didn't get to play for 22 years. But South Africa,
that's done and dusted, and they were boycotted by the entire cricketing fraternity.
Okay, at that time you needed a strong political will to do it.
Yeah.
That call a spade, the apartheid
But what
regime
now?
was
People could point fingers at India at the moment and say, see, Pakistan have done their bit. They came in 2016 when you had hosting rights of the World T20 World Cup. Then they came again in 2023 when you had the hosting rights for the ODI World Cup. They did their due. What is stopping India now? That's the question that everyone's expecting us to answer, perhaps as a cricketing nation.
Which is why we lacked strong political conviction.
No, but Siddharth, you can't equate the South Africa example with this. In the South Africa case, all countries were in it together. In this case, like Harshit mentioned, Australia is touring there, England is touring there. They don't seem to have a problem. Either you do a, pull off a diplomatic coup by getting them on your side, which is not happening. And it's not always happened. For example, in 96, not every country, agreed with Australia and West Indies not to go to Sri Lanka. Some did, some did not. So how do you equate that same thing that what happened to South Africa with Pakistan? Everyone else is going. And why should England and Australia and everyone else toe your line?
Because Australia doesn't have, or England doesn't have, hostile relations with Pakistan. We have. And it's been going on for 30, 40 years.
Fine, but you expected it, Pakistan to be treated like South Africa, no?
Yes.
But that's what I'm trying to say. That was because everyone took offense to what South Africa was doing. But in this case, you yourself are saying they don't have hostility. So why should they?
Because that is the problem.
Asking what you're telling
That is
them.
the problem. All our past regimes and all the past of the ICC people wanted India versus Pakistan for greedy purposes. Forget all the hostilities that is going on. This rivalry was fueled by greed. Let's be very honest about it. And now somewhere down the line, I hope that those blinkers of greed come down and you see the real picture. You can't be playing cricket with a hostile nation that is there towards us.
Okay, valid point. Then why did you host Pakistan?
Which was an epic mistake. You shouldn't have done it in 2016. You shouldn't have done it in 2023.
Okay, so you are of the opinion, fair enough, everyone, you're of the opinion that cross-border terrorism and sport cannot go in hand in hand. Okay,
Yes.
Valid opinion. That's fine, absolutely fine. As I said, I'm not a geopolitical expert. I do not understand those things, but I will, as an Indian citizen, if my government decides that, listen, we do not want to have any sort of relationship and you cannot keep politics aside from sport with Pakistan and so on and so forth, I would agree, right? I would back the government to the tilt if they say that. That means no playing Pakistan in neutral venue, no playing here, because they know better, they understand that situation better, and if they have intelligence to suggest that there is sponsorship of terrorism in this, and so they want, to keep that in mind, fair enough, 100% backing. The problem arises there that Pakistan's coming here, playing here, 2016, 2023, you're playing in other tournaments, we are covering those tournaments, everything is happening. It's only when it's happening there you're not going. Then there is a bit of an issue. Wouldn't you say that's double standards then?
Well, welcome to the way how Pakistan's always operated. Double standards.
No,
they can sponsor.
They will say this is double standards on our part, na?
So, when you've gotten the bite of your own medicine, how does it taste, Pakistan? That's what I would like to ask. 30 years, 30 to 40 years, you have been running an agenda that is against India. Oh, but cricket, let's keep politics aside.
No, I'm not saying keep it.
Yeah.
I'm saying do with it.
Yeah.
I'm saying you want India to be strong. You're asking India to be strong. Then absolutely agreed. Why would you have them here?
We made money in 2016 out of that fixture. We made greater
I'm saying
money.
stop it.
That is the problem.
In 2023.
Why?
Why did I mention that particular word? This thing was fueled on greed. Now our governments have not had the courage to just go and say, do not play Pakistan anywhere.
So you think 2016 and 23 were also mistakes?
Total mistakes. Total mistakes. It peaked in 2019 on February 14th, 2019. India should not have played that encounter in Manchester against Pakistan after what happened in Pulwama. But there are certain lobbies here who are pushing for a very fake narrative that, we have to play Pakistan. Sports is above politics and everything. It doesn't work in the case of Pakistan. You made two epic blunders in 2016 and 2023 by even inviting them here. You shouldn't have. If you are the richest board in the world with all the economic clout that is there, why would you invite a rogue nation who have had hostilities towards us?
Okay, now let's assume that, you're saying that fine, there should be a certain set and there should be no cricket at home or away. Fine, that is absolutely your opinion and there's validity in what you're saying. But my point comes that how can you coexist in a scenario like the ICC?
Yeah.
How do you do that going forward? You
we
cannot have special tournaments.
Otherwise, you will have, let's say, what happened
it
at
just can't
the Olympics in '74. Let's say that was the time I think Pakistan won the gold medal as well, and
80.
Moscow.
Wasn't 74.
No, India won
72 was
72,
there was no
yeah.
Olympics in 74. 72.
72.
Yeah.
So the time that Pakistan won, I remember half the world wasn't playing that time.
That was 80.
80 where India won.
Yeah.
India won in 1980 Moscow.
Again, either you go back to those times where nations are then pulling out because of political tensions. You've seen so many FIFA World Cups get impacted as a result. Olympics has gotten impacted because of World War II and other instances of Cold Wars being reported time.
You just have to look at FIDE. I give the chess example. In the chess Olympiad, Iran and Israel were tagged together in one particular round. They are still members of FIDE, both Iran and Israel, although they don't have bilateral relations at all with each other. Iran didn't play Israel. They were there on the board. The opponents came. Iran just simply refused to do it.
Again, Siddharth, that can still happen in, as I said, the West Indies, Australia boycotted in Sri Lanka. 2003, England didn't go to Zimbabwe. Yeah. But that's a different format. West Indies, Australia played the semi-final of the 96 World Cup because you could afford to do that. What happens if there is a scenario where, like the Champions Trophy, where the entire tournament is in one country? You can't not reach the table there, right? You're supposed to play all your matches there. So these examples are not, you're not comparing apples with apples.
Okay,
what happens when it's going to be...
If you have to look at terrorism, it's a simple bit. One nation has gotten impacted in two countries. When a terrorist attack happened, they had to go off. New Zealand. 87 and 1992. Two terror attacks happened there. But it wasn't as if Sri Lanka was hostile to New Zealand. There was a terror attack, you simply left. There was a grave security threat, so you leave. There is a grave security threat in Pakistan. 965 kilometers away from Lahore, there was Quetta. There was a bomb explosion at a railway station there. Okay, but everybody will say 965 kilometers, how will it impact Lahore? It will impact. It is India. You can give them presidential style security, you can give them even American style security also. But there is a grave
Why did the Indian tennis team and the Indian kabaddi team and the Indian bridge team also got clearance from the MEA, travel to Pakistan?
This is why what I had said at the very beginning, two things I had mentioned. Our convenience and our greed. You don't have
What
the
is
strong...
the greed in a bridge tournament or a Davis Cup?
This falls under convenience. Convenient. Because you have to ensure that you take a strong stance. Unfortunately, our administration doesn't take a strong stance. For what reasons, I am not going to speculate. This isn't a political platform that I want to speculate. They don't take a strong stance. Even for the Indian blind team.
Well,
why are they sending them there?
I'd say this is more politics playing out than sport at the moment. This has nothing to do with sport. Sports is getting impacted because
I'm
of the
fine
politics.
with politics. I'm saying
But-
politics
but
will
it's-
influence.
see-
But why did it not play out in the other example?
Reasons very simple. Because tournaments like Bridge, the Davis Cup match that India had with Pakistan, all of these are not in the public eye. How many people in this country would really know about the existence of those matches or those matches even having taken place? You and I were there when that instance happened. You spoke with the people in charge when that move happened as well, when India got the approval for the Davis Cup as well. Did that make any sort of noise in the political corridors? Absolutely not.
So you're saying that
just because this is in the public eye, this becomes, again, it is for both the countries. See, we must understand how this is going to play out. If the Indian government is to agree as well, okay, let's allow for once, we've not traveled there since 2008, for once let's allow them to travel. The media over there is going to beat India down. India bowed down, India succumbed to Pakistan pressure and this and that. This will be the narrative that will get peddled. Now, you don't want that if you're India, number one. Number two, the Indian politicians also are doing their bit at the moment. Let's be honest about that too. Because if this was the case, or if this wasn't the case, then the other tournaments that we talked about, the Davis Cup, Kabaddi, etc., you wouldn't have gotten approvals for that. Just because it was not in the public eye, this is in the public eye. It's just politicians doing their bit at the moment.
It's interesting angle that Harshit picks on. So you're saying that if so this decision is taken by government not because of any valid reason, because if cross-border terrorism was an issue, then there would be no cricket with Pakistan, either at home or away. But now you're not sending teams to Pakistan because, as you said, it's primarily because it helps your political narrative. Is that why
Absolutely.
you send the cricket team? It shows that you're very strong
Both the
as a
nations,
government,
yes.
that you're not sending
Yes.
the cricket team,
Yeah.
but nobody really bothers about the tennis team.
Absolutely doesn't. Absolutely doesn't. The only time you're watching perhaps tennis is when there's an Indian player or an Indian athlete at the Olympics.
I agree with you that
Yeah.
nobody watches. But my point is, do you think that's the reason?
It is. Because again,
Who gets the more eyeballs? Which sport gets the
That's
maximum
what I'm saying.
eyeballs?
There is no argument on that. I
because-
want to know, is the decision taken by the government influenced by the fact that the lesser watched sport, let it happen, it's not going to help our political narrative. But when we stop the cricket team from going, it shows that we are taking a stern step, and that's going to go down.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
No two ways about
100%.
it.
Okay, I mean, if I'm not always the one to support the government, but I see things slightly differently, and I'll give you my explanation why I'm saying that. So, to the point that the Indian team, if there is an issue with cross-border terrorism, so forth, stop sporting ties. I'm with it. If my government decides that, I, as a patriot, I'm going to support what the government decides. So will, I'm sure, people in Pakistan will, and everyone has the right to do that. My argument in that is the reason that India's stance has been normal is that India has said we will not have, or the Indian government stance has been, we will not have bilateral relations with Pakistan. So no bilateral series, which is why you've not had bilateral series in a very long time. The last time India went to play a bilateral series, 2008 in Pakistan. Last time Pakistan came was 2012.
2012,
Right? So you've not. So that stance has been normal. I think why India plays Pakistan in neutral as well as at home is because there is no security threat to the team. So you don't want to have a relationship with Pakistan, but because it's a ICC tournament and you can't avoid your opponent and you can't pick and choose, and so you play wherever there is no security threat. I think the reason India is not sending a team to Pakistan, that's not moving away from their stance of playing them in in ICC tournaments, that stance remains the same. The reason they're not, because they played Pakistan in other venues.
Yes.
The reason they're not sending India to Pakistan is because they feel there is a threat to the Indian team. And I think that security threat, because see, the BCCI often came out and said that we'll do whatever the government says. If the government says yes, we will go and play, we will go and play. Rohit Sharma has come out and said that, listen, I can't say anything on that, but if my government allows us to play, I'd love to go and play in Pakistan. Rohit has said that previously. I saw Surya Kumar Yadav reel just today where he said that, listen, a Pakistani fan asking him, he said, we have nothing to do with it. If they tell us to go and play, players will do whatever. So I think right now the decision taken not to send the Indian team to Pakistan is not moving away from their stance of playing them in ICC tournaments. They're not sending because there's a threat perception or there is security threat to the Indian team. Yeah. So the MEA has to give a clearance, and the MEA clearance is based on intelligence that they have. Yeah. So probably there's intelligence that we do not want.
The one thing I do agree is that as far as the threat perception is concerned, that of all the teams that we talked about, be it the Kabaddi team, be it the Davis Cup contingent or the Indian team for that matter, or the bridge contingent as well, the threat perception has to be the most to the Indian cricket team.
So that answers that question as well.
But again, the point being, is there enough dialogue between the two nations in terms of there being... So what does PCB say? PCB says that, listen, our security is well taken care of. Remember, there was Rajiv Shukla and Roger Binney who had gone last year as well for the opening ceremony of the Asia Cup, and they were happy with the hospitality and the way they were treated, I'm pretty sure, and they were happy with whatever was there on offer at that moment. You didn't get to know anything about there being lack of security. And what do multiple tours of England and Australia tell you? That is Pakistan's way of telling the globe or sending a message across globally that we are now well equipped to host tournaments and the safety is not an issue. However, I do agree, with India things are tricky. With India things are very, very tricky, and this is the outlier. This is the outlier to the whole situation between India and Pakistan. Now, as we've seen, governments often ask for proof. Is the Pakistan government, or have they given enough proof for India to then go ahead and say that no, we are not satisfied given the proofs that you've given us in terms of security and we don't think this is matching our standards? Or India are just being headstrong about it and saying, listen, we are junking, we're not even looking at whatever proofs you have to give. Our stance is politically clear.
But Harshit, that's not how it works. Two things on that. Firstly, there is no doubt that Pakistan will provide the best of security. There is no doubt about it. As you mentioned, the BCCI team has gone there before. But the problem with there is BCCI came out and said that they were happy, right? But this is not the BCCI decision. BCCI will not be privy to a lot of information that may be happening or a lot of intelligence which only the Indian government would be aware of. That's the first thing. Secondly, I for once never deny that Pakistan will not provide good security. They have done it for other teams, and for the Indian team they'll have even more security. Yeah. Dare I even say that the security that the Pakistan team got in India, the Pakistan government will have more security provided for India. I will agree on that front. But the threat for the Pakistan team in India is also much lesser than the threat that the Indian team will have in Pakistan. Also, the Indian team, or the Indian government may ask for things, but how much do you think the Indian government will trust what is told to them from the Pakistan side in terms of...
You leave that to diplomats to figure that out.
But at the end of the day, the risk of anything, if there is intelligence, and at the moment the MEA has not given a green light, we hear, because there is a threat perception. If that is the case, then they are within their rights not to send the team, because can you imagine... even if you're looking at a political stance to all of this, can you imagine what might happen? God forbid there was something untoward that was to happen to an Indian team or even an Indian player. Yeah. No government would not risk that. Absolutely. Governments can fall because of that. That's one thing. Secondly, in terms of the Indian side giving them proof or intelligence, it's not always done, right? You just had a major issue between India and Canada.
And my logic comes from there only, where the two nations are, one asking the other for proof.
But they did not give any proof as such, right? Because a lot of things in terms of intelligence, you do not share with the other. Yeah. So how
that's what I'm saying. So it's for diplomats to then figure out. But
see, the question of trusting Pakistan for security doesn't even have to be comprehended. You can't trust them. Sri Lanka made that ultimate mistake in March 2009. Players almost paid with their lives there in Lahore. Almost. Had most of the players not gotten some form of military training, you would have seen some people even being dead there at Lahore. You cannot trust what Pakistan says. Because they are desperate to get teams in Pakistan to ensure they have an ICC event after 29 years. They are desperate. They will say anything that suits them. But on the point where India have taken a stance, no bilaterals, but we will play them in neutral venues because there is no security threats. Happened ever since 2014, 14, 15, 16. 16 was an exception. 17, 19, 21, 22, 23 also. 23 also. 16 and 23 were exceptions. This was the problem. The whole narrative for 2025 Champions Trophy has been warped because you allowed them to play in 16 and 23 in India. If you had strong administrative capabilities that I will base my politics on lesser teams going to Pakistan.
No, then you have to make one thing, one policy only. Then
you
exactly, you don't give India and Pakistan any hosting rights then. That's the one where ICC, what does ICC do then? No matches or no ICC tournaments to be held in Pakistan and India.
Okay, let me ask this question in a different way. Okay. Can you, because what you are saying is absolute, saying eliminate Pakistan from the ICC setup only.
Yes.
Practically, is that possible?
They can do that to India as well then.
Okay, we'll try and get an answer to both questions. Let's start with that. Since he raised it, can you see a Champions Trophy? Because there's a lot of reports from the Pakistan side saying, because if you don't want to play, you should be out, whatever. Practically, all of us will answer. Can you see a Champions Trophy without India?
No chance.
Why?
Absolutely
Why?
no chance, because what is the ICC and what is cricket? Based on India's economic superpower. You are an economic superpower in cricket, right? Every nation wants to play 5 tests, play them round the year, play them every single time you get an opportunity. Take India out of any ICC event, it isn't an ICC event or it isn't even a cricket event. It's a tier 2 or a tier 3 kind of an event. Take India out of that. So practically, if you want to take India out of an ICC event, good luck. But then the game is coming one step closer to a death.
Agreed. I don't have to add much to it. You can't think of a tournament without India.
Yeah, no, see, it's not that you cannot have a tournament without India, but it obviously will not be even half the tournament that there is without India. It will not have half the money that is going to be involved. You got to remember that the 80% of the revenue generated by the ICC overall is via India through companies based out of India or even foreign companies serving the Indian market. That is via sponsorship or through television rights. Television rights are sold all across the world, but majority 80% of that money comes from TV rights in India. You take 80% of the revenue out, you're not left with much. So to have a tournament, practically to have a tournament without India, impractical. Broadcaster would want the money back. That's like going to empty the coffers of the ICC. They wouldn't want that. Eventually, actually, it will even affect the full member nations. 12 of those or 11 minus India. Then they get about England,
revenue,
Pakistan, and Australia all above 100 million over the next 3 years. They are forecasted to make. They will be making no more than 20 odd million.
Exactly.
So they would not want to risk that themselves. That's first. Secondly, can you have a Champions Trophy without Pakistan? Completely without.
That is much more practical.
Can you see that?
No.
Because the other argument is that just as 80% of the money comes from India, a lot of it is riding on that India-Pakistan match as well. So remove that, you're also gaining to lose. Can you have a Champions Trophy without?
Practically and looking at the economics of it, no. You can't. Because as I said, greed and convenience is the very reason why you are even harboring a hope that, let India play Pakistan in Pakistan. There is a faint hope on that. Greed because it generates the most money. Although for rivalry purposes and as far as sporting purposes concerned, it's a dead rivalry. You can't call India versus Pakistan a rivalry anymore, considering ODI tests you haven't played for 16 years, so forget that. You've had 3 close contests in T20s out of so many that you've played, 3 to 4. So that is one straw that you're hanging on, that it's a rivalry in T20 cricket. The greed that you have bought on because of all of this, the marketing, the hype, the jingoism that comes along with it from both sides of the border, will again ensure, and it defeats the purpose, that you cannot take Pakistan out, because then you can have an India-Australia, you can have an India-England rivalry, but is that matching the hype and jingoism? Maybe for India-Australia it is, maybe, very
What's
big.
your answer? Can you take Pakistan out?
Economically and practically. You asked me to think practically? No, you can't.
I think not just economically, practically, but even the ICC's integrity will not allow them to, just discard Pakistan. For long enough we've known, and Pakistan know that, finally they're going to be getting hosting rights for an ICC tournament. Asia Cup they hosted in 2008, but they've not hosted an ICC tournament, and the boards really craved for something like this for too long. They've done whatever that they could to re-establish themselves on the cricketing landscape, and I think to an extent they've done that as well, and it'll be very harsh on Pakistan if ICC was to take it away. So I don't think even the ICC's integrity will allow them to, besides the reasons that Siddharth pointed out, them to snatch the hosting rights away from Pakistan or have the tournament in some other part of the world without Pakistan.
So I mean, to answer that, can you have a tournament without Pakistan? Siddharth feels that because of the rivalry and because of the greed, you cannot. Well, and I disagree with him. I think you can, and I'll explain that why. Because while you keep saying India Pakistan, I just looked at the figures of the 2003 World Cup that happened here. There were a couple other 2023 ODI World Cup that happened in India. There were a couple of games that had more viewership than India-Pakistan league games, and there were two more, of course, the semis and a final that had more. What I'm trying to get at, and I don't want to get into the numbers because I've done a different package on that will be up in another half an hour, where I actually explain how FAQs, all your major questions answered. But because it is not really in terms of even viewership that high, if you were to remove an India-Pakistan game, the tournament and ICC will have a dent, but that dent will be marginal. As I explained earlier, take India out, 80% dent. Take that India-Pakistan game, at best you are looking at a 15 to 20% dent. That is a dent that most countries can afford. So now this is financially. Can you have a tournament without Pakistan? I'm looking at it just financially. Yes, you can. But, and there's a big but, you cannot run everything on finance and power, right? Everything doesn't work like that, especially in the sporting universe. ICC as a body, if it has to have relevance, at some point it will have to be seen to be doing the fair thing. While it invited a lot of criticism anyway with the way the revenue was split up, with India getting 40% and so on and so forth, they still tided over the storm because they found even Pakistan to get a major chunk in ECB, Australia and so forth. But now that one elimination, siding one team out, it will, I'm not saying that it will end the ICC, it will develop cracks. Also, more than doing the right things, you have to be seen to be doing the right things. And as a governing body, you will have to look at that. You can't ignore that. You also have to put into account, people are saying that, you will have an Indian chair, Jayshah taking over.
December 1.
But, and people think that will play out in India's favor because he can take a call for India. Actually, it gets tougher for India then. Yes. Because if once you're put in a position of neutrality, of a position where you're supposed to be seen to be doing the right thing, and nobody would want to, and he's done a good job as a secretary of the BCCI, he'd want to do, he cannot then be presiding over an ICC that will decide to eliminate one team. It becomes trickier, it becomes tougher if you look at it that way, So there are going to be a lot of, wheels within wheels that will have to be looked at. So you can't just sit and look at the balance sheet that I just looked at and I said, listen, hey, 80% if India go out, 20 with Pakistan, okay, let's sign on Pakistan going out. It can't be like that. A governing body of any sport, we've seen it with various other sports as well. You'll have to find a way. In the short term, even if you have to take that decision, in the short term it can hurt Pakistan, but in the long term it will hurt cricket, right? So as a governing body, you'll have to take long-term decision, not short-term decision. So it's going to be a tricky situation. The right thing would be to find a common ground whereby you get both countries involved. How you do it, hybrid, both not budging. But as I said, there is another 100 odd days to go for the tournament. There will be multiple negotiations. See, it's like bargaining for something. You get some, I get some, you sit across the table, certain things will have to be found and you'll have to find a common ground. I think, which is why I'm saying, in case of that rare scenario where the wise men that will sit on the table from both sides cannot find a common ground and don't realize that we'll have to find something to get it working, then you may look at, for the moment, just pushing the tournament to another date, postponing it to, because you cannot go ahead with just kicking out one team.
This is only, I'm saying it on November 12th itself, this is only part 1 of the chaos. Part 2 and part 3 will happen in 2025 and 2026 and 2027 also. 2026, you're hosting the T20 World Cup here. Okay, there you are actually...
27? Why do you say 27?
I mean, aren't you hosting even one more ICC event? Isn't India Asia Cup? Aren't you hosting even the Asia Cup here? Asia Cup and T20 World Cup, the same problems are going to happen. 2026 maybe less so, because they'll say, okay, Pakistan's games will all be in Sri Lanka. Because India and Pakistan, Sri Lanka are co-hosting it. So all Pakistan games in Sri Lanka. What if the final is going to be here in India? In Pakistan qualifies for the final, then what?
Let's listen to lovely viewers, because a lot of them are really smart with maybe varied and interesting opinions. So maybe we'll learn a thing or two and look at some different perspective. Rishabh says, I support the Indian government stance, but then stance should be equivalent across all sport. Cannot be that you can allow Davis Cup team, blind cricket team, all these less important ones. If security is important for Indian cricket team, same goes for the other. Absolutely. Which is what I alluded to earlier. You will have to, and if looking at this, people find double standards, I can't blame them, because this is what it seems like on the face of it.
Trisha Jain is saying, the sports ministry gave NOC with no cost to the government to 17-member Indian cricket team travel to Pakistan to participate for T20 World Cup for the blind. I think
sarcasm.
Trisha is saying, I think blind are
but
not
that's
proper.
just one part of the development, Trisha. The fact that, yes, that NOC, the sports ministry may have given, that doesn't mean that the blind cricket team is also set to travel. That's on hold just as much as the Indian cricket team is on hold, because that matter has the same notification in which that NOC has been given. It also further says, that letter says that you've been directed to go to the Ministry of External Affairs and the Ministry of Home Affairs to get the approval needed to travel to Pakistan. So that they still haven't gotten.
Yeah.
Tanmay Joshi, either go to Pakistan or pull out and let Sri Lanka participate. Rules should be same, ensure no India-Pak match barring ICC finals to end this issue.
But why barring ICC finals? If India...
what are you going to do then if there is an ICC final? What do you do?
As I said, if we had a strong administration, they would have just said no to Pakistan being played anywhere.
What do you do if you are in the final?
Abandon, boycott it.
You leave the final.
No relation.
You're going to kill my beloved sport, Siddharth.
I'm not killing. Your convenience
it's cricket is like yours. It's my life, right? I wait for World Cups. I want India to win. I like competition, as do all of our viewers. You're saying finish it, don't play final, boycott it.
As you say,
lost the final 19th November. People are still crying over it. You're saying you reach the final. It's against Pakistan. We're not playing.
It was against a better opponent. But
then, then not play the tournament. How can you be in a scenario playing a tournament? But if you reach the final in Pakistan, you won't put it.
That is what you should have
very extreme.
The guts and the bravado to do it. But will you do it? You didn't even want to risk not playing in that Manchester World Cup match after a more dastardly act that happened on February 14th. But you went ahead and played. All the signature and posturing that was there, it was just for show. It was never ever genuine.
No, I agree with you, but then that has to be common.
It was not common. That's the thing. That's why I always point out, strong administration, equal. If you have to have an equivocal stance, have it. But no. Our own people are sometimes our own worst enemy in these kind of situations. That's why you never had a good stance in this matter.
Make Siddharth Home Minister.
I don't mind.
he can be, but across the Indian Ocean.
No, that it's
no,
gone.
New Zealand maybe.
Yeah.
Rishabh Jaiswal is saying in 2022, Pakistan denied playing chess Olympiad in India. Now for cricket, they say don't bring politics. Isn't this hypocrisy?
Of course, I mean, see, Pakistan and China both didn't come for the chess Olympiad that was held in Mamallapuram. And Pakistan says the same thing. Oh, we may have a security risk, so that's why, or there is bilateral tension, so we won't come. Now, as I said, once Pakistan is getting a dose of their own medicine, how does it taste? It tastes good, right? So that's what. They have lived in a parallel universe for 30, 40 years, claiming that, oh, you should all come here, but we will sponsor terrorism everywhere in the world. That's another thing altogether.
Okay, Rishabh also says it is nothing but vote bank politics, as simple as that's something that Harshit also alluded to. It's an interesting thing. I'm not spending a lot of time because we've discussed a lot of those things. We'll only spend time discussing some newer perspectives that we get. Shaky Vlogger from the UK says it's plain and simple. We are doing same as Cricket Australia, ECB used to do in the 90s, but it was different as I mentioned. It was, they didn't travel. Also, the scenario, they knew somewhere back of their head they could still qualify for the knockout stage because the other matches were happening in different countries.
Correct.
Bilateral, India has stopped and a lot of them stop is fine. It's the problem comes when it's an ICC tournament. That's what we're struggling with. I think both people across the border kind of made peace with the fact that bilateral cricket not in the near future.
Yep.
But it's when you have these ICC tournaments, what do you do?
Shaky Vlogger.
India, England, Australia, Pakistan, without them ICC tournament is meaningless.
Yeah, which is again another thing that we discussed, that right now a bit of jingoism on display even in mainstream media where everyone's rooting for their team and their boards and no, this will not, we will kick India out, no, we'll kick Pakistan out, we can have this. Eventually, I mean, if you look at the reality and smell the coffee, it's going to hurt. Yes, the degree of hurt will be different, but it's going to be a problem.
But honestly, Shaky Vlogger, if there is no Pakistan, the world won't miss them in an ICC event. Honestly.
You can't say that.
Why not? I mean, if you look at the quality that they are bringing.
People in Pakistan.
They have just won their first ODI series in Australia.
People in Pakistan will miss them.
It's not the first time they have ever done it.
But it's people in Pakistan will miss them, no?
Okay, let people in Pakistan miss their team. But it's okay.
But I'm sure
the rest of the world will not have a problem. I'm pretty much sure.
No, that's harsh.
No, it's not harsh. I mean,
you're
somewhere down the
for
line.
The Aussies and English and everyone.
I am not speaking for the English
but
or the
you just
Aussies.
Said rest
for
of the world.
India, I am speaking about India.
Okay, say that. Okay.
If Pakistan is not there in an ICC event, looking at what the quality that they bring, and let's not harp on 1992 or 2017 all over again, they just will not be missed.
What about 2021 T20 World Cup final?
What? 2021 T20 World Cup final?
Semi-final. At least they made it till there.
22 final.
22 final.
22.
22 final. Yeah. And we knew what was the 3 words that got them there.
So.
But in 2024 they lost.
They lost to whom? Yes.
But ups and down. India also in 2021, what did they do?
Exactly. So we also criticize India, isn't it? But that's the way. Shubham Garg is saying this was a golden opportunity for India to win CT from Pak on Pak soil.
That's
no win would have been bigger than this for Indian cricket history in modern time.
It's like Pakistan were all fired up last time when they came that we will win the final in Indian soil. No, I'm just saying from their point of view, it fired them up that they'll win it in Ahmedabad, yes. Final. Actually, as an Indian fan, it would give me because I was there for the last Champions Trophy final
17
and it really hurt because India were the far better team and then they just capitulated on the day of the final.
They used
for them to wrest back that trophy in Pakistan.
That's when that thing
at the
happened.
2023 thing, wow. 2 words that were used now by our dear neighbors. 2 words were used. We win the trophy they used 2 words.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the first time I think we heard bad 45 minutes of play cost us the match.
That was there even 2016 or 2015 or 2014, whatever.
2019 also.
Oh, please, let's not get into that. Danush is saying Ram Prakash, Hick, KL. Who is the worst batter to play 50 tests? Yikes.
What a change of mood suddenly.
KL Rahul, yaar. The world always wants to talk about him.
KL Rahul is in Australia practicing.
Yes.
Virat hasn't reached for practice, but he was the first one to reach.
He was the first one to reach.
I think he's practicing.
I don't get it. Indian team did this last time around. You went to Australia as well for the T20 World Cup. This time as well, I saw some images. The whole Waka has been covered with the black sheets and all. I don't understand what's this undercover thing that you intend to do at times.
Have we gone there to double up as Raw or Mossad
I
agents?
don't quite like the whole Waka has been covered with black sheets. Yeah, there's some undercover operations happening over there. We have some Ramban which we'll come up with, and
Brahmastra, you mean?
Keep it for tomorrow.
yeah, like exactly whatever it'll be our silver bullet to all problems in this world for us. Come on, yaar.
Okay.
The other teams tell us the playing 11 on the. We don't even do that.
You don't know if your captain
We'll
also
keep that for tomorrow. Another episode of the
Hilarious. I
Dugout.
saw those visuals.
Okay, quickly on the India, we're going to take last 3 comments before we wind up for the evening. Priyanshu says, Pak is doing this drama just to make their public happy. Suddenly one random day hybrid model will be accepted. India will play in Dubai and rest matches in Pakistan. Ideal all India-Pakistan matches stop. What Priyanshu is saying may not be far from the truth. Who knows? Priyanshu may get it bang on.
Yep.
Sarat Chandra is saying, Nikhil sir, they say there isn't any security problem, but on 9th, 25 people died there in Quetta. Siddharth mentioned that. Isn't that a problem? What about stadium renovation? Looks like work also stopped. Will that finish on time? I think the stadium...
He's talking about the suicide bomb.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in Quetta.
Suicide
railway
bomber,
station.
yeah.
The stadium renovation, I think, will be taken
Yeah,
care
I
of.
think by December they had a grace period that okay, if
Yeah.
you fall behind,
Yeah.
that's it.
Shubham Garg says, just imagine Rocco with trophy in Gaddafi Stadium with Chakde playing in the background. Man, what a moment. Goosebumps.
Wishful thinking.
We are missing the whole point. That's why these kind of opinions now do not underline the real issues that are there. Just because the same argument was used in 2019. Oh, we will beat Pakistan on the ground. It was such an empty, hollow feeling. It couldn't compensate for all the years that you have infiltrated at this point in time. It was a very empty feeling. Beating them in Manchester, okay. But then, sorry boss, this is the same argument that you're using, and that is why fans themselves are the biggest issues in India-Pakistan situation.
Okay, Nature Thing says if India don't travel to Pakistan, BCCI can plan a domestic tourney with Indian main players. We get most views with that. Actually, I was thinking of an idea. I thought of it. If that was to happen, India will, bring their IPL a month instead of March. They'll bring it to February. And once they announce IPL, all the main players will come and play the,
Yes.
the IPL. So I thought of that. I was thinking
good
of that.
idea.
What if that was to happen? Abhinash Acharya is saying absolutely true. Nobody will miss Pakistan is what he is saying. And that's that. Troy Gizmo Siddharth. He says Siddharth is absolutely biased, but he loves you. as well.
Thank you so much, Troy. Thank you so much.
On that note, we will take your leave. Anything else you want to say? You vented enough. So, Harshit, anything you'd want to say?
Yeah, I wanted to vent a lot more on what is happening at the Waka.
Tomorrow.
But I'll save that for tomorrow.
Tomorrow, another day, another episode of the Dugout. It's coming your way tomorrow. We'll see you then. If you've liked our episode, do give us a like. Would mean a lot to us. Subscribe to Sports Today if you haven't already. Tomorrow, we're going to dive deep into the BGT and discuss...
Tomorrow is also match day.
It's match day too.
Yes, the third T20I in Centurion.
So we'll go from one
Yeah.
end of the
6:15
spectrum to
dugout.
the other.
From BGT, move straight into the game.
You'll go
To
from one end
Centurion.
of the southern hemisphere to the
Yeah,
other.
from Perth we'll go to Centurion.
Centurion. Yeah.
Bye bye, take care, good night, Nandri, Vanakkam, Shubhratri,
Shubhratri.
Shabba Khair.
Eat your vegetables. Don't.
There is, yes, Shivam reminds me, there's a FAQ on this India Park thing with a lot more details, a 10-minute video, which we've done a lot of research for. That's coming your way in exactly 15 minutes, 7:45 it's going to be premiering.
Yes.
So do check that out if you want some more interesting insights into this debate. Anything
Bye-bye.
else?
Much watching.
Must watch it.
Yes.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.